he knew everything about how much I make and all this stuff, and just kind of what kind of lifestyle I had, you know. So I mean, for me and family, you know, like we're a team, you know. So
Right.
I'm trying to support him, you know, and I wanted him to travel and do his things and be happy too and serve. But I mean, never came from his side. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it was just like one way, and that's one, like I was like, man, it's getting heavy for me. Like I need help. You know what I mean? Because I'm taking care of the kid, I'm, you know, paying and everything. This relationship isn't, besides like, you know, cheating and all that other stuff that
Right.
he did, you know. So it's like,
Oh, besides cheating and all the other stuff that I did, oh my God, you see what I'm saying? I was wondering, why would the judge favor a man in a situation like this over a woman, especially a woman who is more than capable? I think the reason why the judge favored the man in this scenario, as in her scenario, is because she wasn't faithful to her husband. She wasn't faithful to the man. Hello guys, this is Joseph for Joseph Teaches Power Dynamics. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing a video by Stories Untold. UFC star Mackenzie Durham opens up accent controversy, motherhood, and more. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about power dynamics when it comes to people who are in positions of authority and positions of status and power, and also positions where they're making a lot more money. You see, one of the biggest challenges that people learn in relationship dynamics is that power itself doesn't always stay in the same place. It does move from one place to another. And so we're going to go into the video. I'm going to give you my breakdown, my opinion, how I feel about things, more my point of view, my perspective, etc. Now, before I get into the video, I want to give you guys some brief information. Power dynamics is a matter of understanding, taking the time to learn and observe what's going on in relationship dynamics with self, relationship dynamics when it comes to groups, and also relationship dynamics when it comes to one or two people. Understanding relationship dynamics between two people, yourself, and a group of people is very important, because that can help you navigate your life and also help you making better decisions. Now, let's get into the video.
Comment that you made, one of your fights, you were like, this fight is literally still paying for my separation and my divorce.
yeah.
Is that something that you still feel like you're still having to commit so much money to that financial burden and to support him?
Yes, 100%. It's something that, like, at least living in California, you know, it's a state that it's like, it blows my mind. It blows my mind how, like, basically I go to court almost every year because, you know, he comes with this, you know, whole map of how my career will be, you know, like, oh, that she's going to win the belt here in a couple years and then she's going to make this money. And it's just like, it's crazy to me how people can just be so, you know, money orientated about other people's money, you know what I
He
mean?
goes in there and like projects your earnings.
Yes. Yeah, well, him and his lawyers, right? Yeah, like, okay, so she'll probably win the belt in 2 years or 1 year, and then people who win the belt, they make about this much money. So, and then I don't have anything to, like, I don't work, and then they say that they don't work, and I don't understand how I'm like trying to work and provide this life for my daughter and like being a mom and taking care of her and doing all this thing, and then I still have to pay him. And I have to pay his lawyers to fight against me. And so I'm like paying his lawyer's fees to get my money. And then I'm paying my lawyer. And then I'm paying him just to be like a dad. You know what I mean? Just like we have 50-50. So like he has half the time, I have half the time. And I pay for like health insurance and all that extra stuff because I make the most money. But he doesn't work at all. You know, like no work. And doesn't have to work because he says that he wants to spend more time with his daughter, so he doesn't, and so he's not obligated to work, you know, and to provide.
So you're funding him not having a job. The state
Yes.
of California is expecting you to
Yes.
fund him not having a job.
Yes, because I have to provide the lifestyle. I have to maintain the lifestyle at my house, at his house. That's my obligation, I guess.
Now, I'm going to highlight the situation that she's talking about and also my observation when it comes to her energy as well. Now, when it comes to her situation, she's expressing her frustration when it comes to a man that she used to be married to, and the fact that he's taking advantage of her when it comes to the system, which I understand what's going on with that. I think the biggest difficulty that a lot of people don't take into account, especially when you're dealing with relationship dynamics that led to a divorce, is there's always a lot of unspoken things that you can pick up. If you listen long enough, you can start to discover there's some challenges there or some things that may have been a bit of a concern. So for example, I would say in her case, although she is the one that is coming out of pocket, I would say that when it comes to the relationship that she was in, it strikes to me as though in that relationship dynamics, the man may not have been heard, or the man may have not felt the love that he expected before they got married. And also on top of that, because she herself is a fighter, there's certain thing that I've noticed a lot of, with fighters, they have a tendency of carrying a lot of stress. There's a lot of mental dynamics that goes in preparing for a fight. And sometimes when you're in that zone of preparing for a fight, it can make it very difficult to be affectionate. So I kind of would say, I think the reason why she's divorced is because her relationship with this individual did not favor both of them when it comes to expressing and being themselves. With that being said, the dynamics that I'm observing with her is that of a cooperative dynamics where she's willing to work with the individual. I would say maybe the issue when it comes to her relationship is that she may have married a man who liked the idea of dominating the relationship, and in that attempt to dominate, he couldn't find a way to dominate her completely because she is a very powerful woman, or she gives off very dominant energy because of the sports that she's involved in. And so he himself, realizing that he could not dominate her or have her be the type of woman that he sees as an ideal wife, decided, hey, let's go ahead and end the marriage. As far as spousal support is concerned, I think that itself has probably more to do with the man having like somewhat like an agenda. He doesn't want to walk away from the marriage without having being in a more positive state. But let's continue.
Which is crazy to me, so crazy, you know, because I'm like, well, I want to stay more time with her too, you know.
Right.
But also too, like, who's like, we can. They say technically, if I want to and I don't want to work, I don't have to work. So we can both just not work, and then we'll just give her that type of life, I guess, you know. Lifestyle.
So the alternative is basically, if you don't want to have to pay for his lawyers, for him to maintain the lifestyle you had when you guys were together, because you make more money than him, the court expects you to provide your same lifestyle and he doesn't have to have a job. Or the alternative is, okay, you just don't work, he doesn't work, and then you guys just live with whatever's left.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is so, I've never heard anything like that.
All right, so I'm pausing there for a second. So I will be assessing the host as well. So the host, based on the energy that I'm getting from her, she also does strike me as a cooperative. I'm going to take back a little bit of what I said about the other woman. I think she probably may be a little bit more domineering in some cases. But she, like I said, I'll say she's more cooperative, but probably like a good, you know, it's kind of hard to kind of read her when it comes to this story because she's kind of expressing herself in a very, how can I say it? In a very, I was taken advantage of type of mindset. There's a lot of things that she's not really saying, and she's kind of making it look like the guy had really bad intentions based on the interview. But let me kind of get back to the host. I think the host does have a very cooperative energy based on what I'm seeing. And if she is in a relationship dynamics with someone, I think that person would be someone that she would be willing to listen to and hear his opinion. Now, I would say that there might be moments where she may not want to consider what the guy is saying, but I think she has a mindset of trying to understand the other person as well. And I can say that because of if you were to watch the full video, you could tell by the way she talks to the producer it seems as though she has that mentality of, you know, if we have responsibilities, we stay within our responsibilities. Whatever we dominate, and we let the other person lead on things that they're good at. So, but let me continue with the story.
Like that.
Yeah, and then they say they just give him like minimum wage. They say, okay, we'll say that you make at least the minimum wage, which he doesn't even make that, you know, and yeah, it's just crazy. I think just to get your kid, I'm against like trying to get. I mean, unless you really really need it, you know. I'm against like getting the state and the government involved in how you raise your kids. You know, I think that should be something like to help protect kids from, you know, like abuse and things like that, you know. But I think if you can not have the state in the, you know, telling you like, okay, you need to do this and you need to do that, you need to do this, it's like, man, I feel like at least my ex, he's a surfer.
Hold on. She's saying that I feel like, okay. So typically, she's saying I feel like. So typically when we will use the words I feel like, it's a filler statement. For those of you who are not familiar with power dynamics, filler statements are ways of making statements that you're not 100% sure about, and you're kind of considering those statements. Now, when someone hears the term I feel like, it almost elicits a certain doubt mechanism within that person's brain. So even though you are expressing yourself, I wouldn't recommend someone to say I feel like when they're expressing themselves. I recommend that they either make the statement or they say something like, I believe that this is what's going on, I think this is what's going on. It's better that you make a complete statement without adding a lot of filler words than to make a statement that has filler words, because it makes it harder for people to truly trust what you're saying. Like they'll hear what you're saying, but they're not gonna trust it as much. They're gonna think you're just being emotional when you say the words I feel like. But when you make a statement without inserting our words in there, you are able to convince people a lot more with the things you're saying. And you know, some people do it by default, but I would say if you're someone that is trying to improve your communication, especially with relationship dynamics, make your statements and don't insert the term I feel like. But let's continue.
You know, you can live like such a flexible life. You could be a good co-parent and just be like, you know, I think stability is important for the kid, for the daughter, my daughter. But yeah, just when it gets down to it, you know, to think, I'm like, man, like I carried her 9 months in my belly, you know what I mean? Right. It's like I protected her enough to get her here to life, you know what I mean? So we separated when she was 3. You know, that's, for me, that's very young. Mm-hmm. For him to say like that, he stopped his career as a surfer and that he became a stay-at-home dad. And it's like, I mean, anyone who...
That sounds like what he says to a lawyer as a way to justify getting the alimony, or whatever you're going to call it, the spousal support. People will come up with the most craziest stories just to justify getting money from people, especially when it comes to legalities. It's wild to me that he would say that.
We were kind of like a public couple, you know, so I think anyone who knew us, they knew like how much he was traveling, surfing, and I was paying for everything to help him with his surf competitions and like investing and helping him. And obviously with surfing, you can't like leave a kid on the sand, you know, while you're surfing. Right. So who's taking care of her while he's surfing and practicing was me, you know.
So your career was on pause too.
My career was more on pause than he didn't put his career on pause. He didn't put his career on pause at all. When she was 3 days old, he was traveling for more than a month, almost 2 months, you know what I mean? Which is not a problem at the time. I'm the mom, so I'm breastfeeding. I'm a fighter, you know, so my whole career was on pause for...
I hear what she's saying, but I'm a little hesitant to believe everything that she's saying, only because we don't really have the guy to hear the guy's side of the story. I think a lot of people have this thing of wanting to paint themselves as though they were like the most perfect spouse. Not really highlighting some of the challenges that they themselves brought to the table. Yeah, she's saying what she's saying about breastfeeding and putting her career on pause, but we don't know if that's 100% correct, because what about his situation? She's talking about how he was working, but we don't really know the full dynamics of it. It just strikes to me, and this is just my point of view, that they were in a relationship where they kind of blamed each other, where he was looking at her as someone who wasn't being there for him or not being available or too busy, and she's looking at him as someone that's not being available and not too busy. So they're looking at each other as a problem when they were in their marriage, and now that the divorce has happened, they're still looking at each other as a problem. I say this because he's over here getting money as in spousal support. Now, to get spousal support, you have to fight your case and let the judge know that you are someone that is kind of a victim of your spouse in context of monetary wise. And in her case, she's letting us know that she's a victim of her spouse in terms of how he treated her. And yeah, man, it's these two individuals. I believe that maybe these two had a power struggle within their relationship where the man wanted to dominate and she herself wanted to dominate, but the man got tired of fighting with her on domination because she makes a lot of money and he doesn't like the idea of being dominated by a woman who makes more money than him. And long story short, I think they got into a lot of disagreement, which led to their divorce. But that's just my take on what I'm hearing.
Well, 1 year, 9 months, and 9 plus 4, right? 4 months, 12 months. My body changed, you know, it's just like, and I'm paying all the bills. It's like, you know, taking my daughter to the gym with me and having like a bottle so, you know, my mom can help give the bottle while he's like surfing, you know what I mean? So it's like, and then for the judge to be like, oh yeah, but you got to pay him and pay his lawyers and then it's just every year it comes back and asks for more money and asks for more money. And I'm like, you want to, and so the more money I make, every year he can come back and ask to raise the child support, you know, wow. And which is even more crazier to me that he can just keep asking to raise it, you know.
Wow.
That is wild. I didn't know that was a thing. Yeah. I am infuriated for you, quite frankly, because it's almost like you're being punished for greater levels of success that you're striving for yourself, for your daughter. And then the other thing that
I don't think that's what it is. I don't think she's being punished for anything. I think that there is a miscommunication that happened in the case when she was going against the spouse, and the miscommunication led up to the judge siding with the spouse. Maybe she's not talking about all the things that she may have done wrong within the marriage. For example, some women are abusive to that man. They wouldn't bring that up on a podcast, right? So we don't even know, you know, what are the other negative things that she did that caused the judge to take his side. Some people, it's a drug issue. They may be too embarrassed to say, hey, I was struggling with drugs whenever I was in my marriage. You know, sometimes if it's a drug issue, if it's abuse, if it's other things like cheating, these are some of the things that people would leave out. But these are some of the factors the judge considers whenever they start to favor a spouse over the other, especially if the person has evidence. So I'm not going to say that the judge sided with her ex-husband as a spite. I would say the judge sided with her ex-husband based on whatever the evidence the ex-husband presented that justified the ruling. So I just wanted to kind of let that statement kind of sink into your mind.
I think about too is, you know, if it starts out as maintain a lifestyle, well, if you're maintaining that lifestyle for him, why can he continue to raise the bar and demand more money?
Yeah.
Because at that point, it's not for the child. It's to have extra income to use a different way. If the lifestyle is already maintained that you had when you guys were together and you're already fulfilling that, I just don't.
Exactly.
That's like over my head, beyond me.
Exactly.
But there's a conversation that happens on TikTok. And have you seen Shara 7, the Sprinkle? Have you seen any of that? So it's this conversation about, it's a woman who essentially believes that there should be absolutely no 50-50. Men should pay 100% of women's bills. And that should be the only circumstance that women are really ever in a relationship for. And to her, it's the most important thing. It sounds like at one point you were fine with supporting his lifestyle. And I guess at some point he was okay with you being the one who had money. But has your opinion on that changed? What did you think then? What do you think now?
All right, so before she answers that, she mentioned a lady, I believe it's the Shara 7 lady, the Sprinkle. That lady obviously became very popular on social media. I think that was more of a grift. I think in a situation like that, some people will say things that everybody else really are thinking, or say things that will make people get rowdy or excited. But in actuality, they're not always practicing it. I don't believe the Sprinkle lady was practicing what she was teaching. I think she was more a matter of, let me kind of talk about it because it sounds good and rally these women up behind me as a fan base, and she probably made a lot of money from that, right? But the point is, I hear what she's saying about that. She's saying that that may apply to her ex-husband. I don't think that's what it is at all. I think at the end of the day, there's things that are not being told to us that's being left out in this situation that led up to the judge favoring her ex-husband, and we just don't know what it is. But let me wrap up. Let me go ahead and wrap this up.
Well, I mean, we never. There was never like a thing that I'm gonna pay for everything. You know, when we met, he had his sponsors. You know, he had his own money in Brazil, but it was something that when we got together, we decided to get together because our daughter was a surprise. You know, we weren't expecting it. It was kind of accident. So when we decided, okay, like we're gonna get together and be a family, there was never nothing like, oh, I'm gonna take care of anything. But his money and his lifestyle and everything in Brazil was always like kept secret. And then obviously me being like a public figure, you know, he knew everything about how much I make and all this stuff and just kind of what kind of lifestyle I had, you know. So, I mean, for me and family, you know, like we're a team, you know. Right. So I'm trying to support him, you know, and I wanted him to travel and do his things and be happy too and serve. But I mean, never came from his side. You know what I mean? Right. Like it was just like one way, and that's one, like I was like, man, it's getting heavy for me. Like I need help, you know what I mean? Because I'm taking care of the kid, you know, paying and everything. This relationship isn't, besides like, you know, cheating and all that other stuff that he did, you know. So it's like okay.
Oh, I knew it. She just said it. She just said it. Besides the other things that I did and cheating. I heard cheating in there, right? Let me make sure I heard it correctly.
Style and everything in Brazil was always like kept secret. And then obviously me being like a public figure, you know, he knew everything about how much I make and all this stuff and just kind of what kind of lifestyle I had, you know. So, I mean, for me and family, you know, like we're a team, you know. Right. So I'm trying to support him, you know, and I wanted him to travel and do his things and be happy too and serve. But I mean, never came from his side. You know what I mean? Right. Like it was just like one way, and that's one, like I was like, man, it's getting heavy for me. Like I need help, you know what I mean? Because I'm taking care of the kid, you know, paying and everything. This relationship isn't, besides like, you know, cheating and all that other stuff that he did, you know. So it's like,
oh, besides cheating and all the other stuff that I did, oh my God, you see what I'm saying? I was wondering, why would the judge favor a man in a situation like this over a woman, especially a woman who is more than capable? I think the reason why the judge favored the man in this scenario, as in her scenario, is because she wasn't faithful to her husband. She wasn't faithful to the man. That's why the whole divorce happened. Why else did it happen, right? Because she was not faithful. So, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and stop it right there. The key objective of power dynamics, it comes back to understanding the type of power dynamics you're in, the type of relationship dynamics that you have within that power dynamics, and also to understand whether you're in a positive or negative one. So positive is basically a relationship that builds you up, builds up your confidence. You guys are working together and creating new things that benefits both of you. A negative is where it's more one-sided. It only favors one person. Only one person seems to be kind of happy in it. And in some cases, it might be a situation where no one's happy, but one person is less happier than the other person. So, and if you're in a situation where you're, you know, relationship dynamics that is not good for you, I would say start off with communication and also start making an exit plan if the communication breaks down. Now, in nowhere do I ever condone or support cheating, but if you're in a situation where you are cheating, it's always best to come clean and communicate at some point, especially when you're ready to do so. With that being said, guys, I want to also end by saying understanding power dynamics is key to be able to take control over your relationship, especially in situations where you've lost control. Understanding the person you're dealing with is also important. If you take the time to learn power dynamics and understand how the dominant and submissive role works within your relationships, this will allow you to start setting yourself up to either be the dominant be the cooperative or be the proper submissive person within the relationship. That's all I'm going to say for that. If you like my commentary, you like my breakdown, like my point of view on the video, leave it in the comment section. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and support the channel. Also hype the video. We're on the growth trajectory, and I would definitely love for you guys to not only support the channel, but to subscribe to the channel and be a part of the conversation. I'll see you in the next video.